Hello everyone, and welcome to my Days of Our Lives official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Swallowing wine, Sloan attacks Eric over Jude, and Tate's letter triggers Brady. In their office, John tells Steve he met with Constantine in the recreation area. Alone? Steve shouts. An unsettled John makes sense of he didn't realize it was Constantine when he received the message. Steve can't really accept that he'd opportunity meeting with an unknown client. What's the deal with you, man? Walking around the square around evening time, Stephanie showers acclaim on Everett for his piece on the medication bust. She demands getting him supper. He believes it's good to praise his work, however he's more keen on commending them. Sloan conveys tidbits and wine to Eric in their lounge. However, as she sits, Eric hurries to their crying child. Sloan fills a glass to the brim with white wine out of frustration. At the point when Eric returns, she pours one more glass for herself. Sloan gives him club soft drink as she swallows her wine. At the point when he questions her drinking, she protectively makes sense of she was apprehensive that evening with John and Marlena. This evening, she's overpowered with parenthood, work, and Jude crying each time they're going to engage in sexual relations. Eric guarantees her that Jude will ultimately mature out of crying, and afterward they will have a lot of chance to be together. She trusts thus, since she feels his principal concern is dependable Jude. Ensuring he's okay is more vital to Eric than she is. Eric assures her that his love for Jude does not diminish his love for her. During a group meeting, Teresa sits in a circle in a community room. She shares her disgrace over backsliding as Brady enters. After the gathering, Brady guarantees Teresa he isn't there to determine the status of her. He's there for himself in the wake of getting a virus letter from Tate. He believes Tate's therapy is bringing out his rage at Brady's absence. Feeling he's weak to his children, he wanted a fix. He ventured to such an extreme as to settle on a decision, however he came there all things considered. Teresa guarantees him he's a brilliant dad, and she's fortunate to impart a youngster to him. He thanks her. It implies a great deal coming from her. In the jail guest's room, Harris holds a paper up to Clyde, who finds a seat at the table. A jubilant Harris displays Clyde the Spectator's article about the drug bust, complete with his mugshot, in the visitor's room of the prison. Clyde brings up he's been secured, so how is it that he could be involved? Harris delivers Clyde's booty telephone. Clyde demands he's never seen it. At the point when Harris proposes they'll follow the calls made, Clyde intimates no less than one number could implicate somebody Harris doesn't need implicated. In their office, John describes his gathering with Constantine, who blamed him for killing somebody named Katharina. Upon Steve's impacted response, John inquires as to whether he knows what her identity is. Steve demands he doesn't. He encourages John not to allow Constantine to get to him since then he wins. John says that will not occur, however at that point copies over, grasping his chest. John covers his mouth while leaning over in their office. Steve contacts him. John inhales profoundly as he pulls together. Squinting his eyes at Steve, he gets some information about the pawn. The main thing Steve knows is that John isn't that individual any longer. He recommends they get it tomorrow. John realizes he ought to return to Marlena, yet he doesn't have the foggiest idea how to start to clear up any of this for her when he has no idea himself. What in blazes occurred? He frantically asks. All Steve knows is they need to get Constantine out of their lives regardless of the stuff. Regardless of the stuff, John seriously rehashes. Everett and Stephanie are seated at a table in the square with 2 red wine glasses and a plate of spaghetti. Everett gushes about how happy he is to be with Stephanie once more as they eat in the square. He contemplates whether it'd be unusual to take out a full-page promotion in the paper pronouncing his affection for her. He knows the proprietor, so he can get it. Talking about the proprietor, Stephanie recommends they tell Chad. As they tease and kiss, Stephanie tells Everett she's becoming hopelessly enamored with him once more. She proposes they twofold date for Valentine's Day with Rafe and her companion Jada. She is so cool and shrewd and interesting. She is aware they would get along. Everett shrugs. Perhaps he needs her everything to himself on Valentine's Day. At the point when Eric gets back from keeping an eye on Jude once more, he recommends they start co-laying down with the child. Sloan gulps her wine, fuming. Jude's interfering with them, and she could do without it. After seriously squabbling, Eric says they can engage in sexual relations the present moment, assuming that she's in that frame of mind. Sloan cleverly smiles. They enthusiastically kiss while lying back on the sofa and afterward move to the bed. Sitting on their sofa, Eric and Sloan incline in for a kiss. A container of wine and one wine glass sits on the footstool before them. Locally room, Brady tells Teresa he values her help. She thinks they know one another better than any other individual due to the amount they've had to deal with. They additionally cherished one another, indeed, perhaps it was more desire than adoration. One way or another, she feels the recollections firmly when she's around him, which may be the reason she kissed him. She inquires as to whether he felt something since she did. He brings up she's with Alex and that they ought to save things as straightforward as workable for the good of Tate. However, he will constantly show up for herself and Tate. That's what she knows. She likewise realizes that Tate will come around and will be glad to see him in half a month. As they hold hands in the Horton Community Center, Teresa smiles encouragingly at Brady, who is tense. In the cross-examination room, Clyde offers to clear the implicating numbers off the telephone, assuming that it is, as a matter of fact, his telephone. Harris advises him to push off. He will send Clyde somewhere so horrid, he'll wish he was in Statesville. Regardless of whether that implies taking Harris's better half with him? Clyde inquires. Harris responds positively. And, after it's all said and done. Before Harris departs, they exchange threats. Alone, Clyde hammers the table. Son of a bitch, he snarls. On Days of Our Lives, Sarah and Xander are tempted, and Kate learns something about Lucas. Days of Our Lives currently solely airs on Peacock. To ensure you never miss an episode, buy into Peacock. If it's not too much trouble, note that assuming that you buy something by tapping on a connection inside this story, we might get a little commission of the deal. Eric Martsolf rings in on Brady Dark's genuine romance. Days of Our Lives propose that Brady Dark's affection life isn't precisely flourishing right now, which is totally reasonable considering all that he's going through. He's totally worried about his child Tate Dark's new lawful hardships, nevertheless faltering from losing full-time authority of his girl Rachel Dark that he doesn't have the opportunity to ponder sentiment. He's additionally managing 2 over-the-top exes and is inclining toward the 2 of them. This makes one wonder, who is Brady Dark's genuine romance in Salem? Days of Our Lives, the story of 2 exes. Days spoilers appear to indicate a get-together among Brady and Teresa Donovan, but simultaneously, they bother something happening among him and Kristen DiMera. Days of Our Lives Eric Martsolf tolls in on Brady Dark's genuine affection. All things considered, she did as of late relax her position toward Mr. Dark after he let her beginning and end know that was happening with Tate. Entertainer Eric Martsolf as of late talked with Soaps.com. Eric recognizes the way that Teresa and Brady fortified during Tate's emergency. All things considered, they normally drew nearer as feelings were running high over their child's issues and Teresa's backslide. All things considered, Mr. Martsolf additionally rings in on his dynamic with Kristen. He notes, they generally appear to end up in one another's circles, and he expresses the 2 have science, despite the fact that they probably won't be great for one another. Eric continues by stating that the Crotty relationship is one based on manipulation and is not healthy. DOL who is Brady Dark's extraordinary love. As the Soaps.com interview rolls on, the subject of Brady's genuine romance becomes an integral factor. Martsolf states that he doesn't have the foggiest idea who this could be, and 10 years prior, everybody might have been lean to say Chloe Path. Nonetheless, he mentions Brady's frequent instances of losing in love. Eric uncovers that the person has been locked in a great deal, however, that was likewise during when individuals proposed suddenly generally open.